Hello and welcome to Series 2 of Waypoint, the AirMed&Rescue podcast, your place to hear all the latest insights from professionals in the airborne special mission sector. I'm Junior Editor Oliver Cuenca. In this first episode, I'll be talking to Sam Schaab, a HEM specialist at Leonardo, and Michael Bucari, Leonardo's head of marketing for the Americas, about how their company works to meet the needs of the air medical sector. Hello.
Hey, good morning, Oliver. How are you?
Yeah, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good. Can't complain for a Thursday.
Not long to the weekend now. But yeah, so to start, firstly, I wanted to quickly ask, head of America's marketing, is that North and South?
Yes. I go from Canada all the way down to South America, excluding Brazil. We have our own little separate team down in Brazil that utilizes it, has its own marketing function down there. But yes, I go from Canada all the way south to Argentina. So quite a large territory.
Oh wow, cool. Yeah, and is that the same for you, Sam? Do you also across the entire Americas? Or?
I support Leonardo globally with a focus on North America. I support it around the world.
Fantastic. I thought that to start, it might be nice to hear a little bit about your roles. Sam, why don't you go first? Tell me what you do.
Sure. So my role within Leonardo Helicopters is to support and work as a liaison, essentially, between the EMS community and us as the manufacturer. So I work with our sales teams in identifying products and customers that will meet their mission type. I work with interior providers to enable configurations that will allow our customers to maximize their opportunities and take care of patients in their service area and meet their operational needs. I also work with a bunch of different conferences and some with health policy stuff to ensure that the needs of our customers and the community as a whole are being met by the and that's primarily U.S. government focused. And I support Mike and the rest of the marketing team with campaigns, podcasts, things like that.
Cool. And Mike?
So I have, let's call 4 separate pillars underneath my domain. So we have what we call product marketing. And then those individuals that sit underneath product marketing are subject matter experts, not only on our aircraft, but also our competitors' aircraft, amongst the multitude of segments out there. And so that's not just EMS, it's, offshore, energy, public service, SAR, corporate VIP, and that's on the commercial side. And then obviously we have the military side as well. So that would be our product marketing group. We have what we call our communications division, and that is everything from exhibitions to events to sponsorships and everything that goes along with that. Our advertising plans, our podcasting plans, and what we're essentially doing to get our product and brand out into the market, and that falls underneath our comms team. We also have the segment specialist, which Sam sits under as well. We also have law enforcement specialists and also an AW609 tilt rotor specialist as well. And then the last but not least, we have what we call sales engineering that falls back underneath marketing. And those are our configuration specialists. They are the individuals that take the configuration or the wanting configuration of the customer and then translating that into a document that our program management engineering team then takes for the build. So those are our big 4 pillars that sit underneath the marketing. And then as in Americas, I'm a little microcosm that houses all of that, but obviously the main function is still sitting in it.
Cool. Wow, that sounds like quite a broad remit you've got. Tell me a little bit about. Obviously, Leonardo produces quite a large range of helicopters. Got the 139, the 169, 189, for example, and all of which I believe are all used in things like HEMS and search and rescue. HEMS, for the audience, although I'm sure a lot of us already know that, is helicopter emergency medical services. Are there any preferences for certain models over others? And what exactly is the decision making going on behind the scenes on that front?
From an EMS perspective, and I'll have Sam come in on this as well. So I'll use EMS is not homogenous, meaning EMS in Canada is unlike what EMS is in the United States, which is unlike what each country does EMS, especially from a rotary wing perspective in Europe. So even though the ultimate goal of every EMS operator is to take care of the patient, doesn't matter how old, how age, sex, the idea is to get that patient taken care of. How that happens, the mechanisms that make that happen are obviously different from country to country. As an example, I'll use Canada and the United States as two different models. Canada is segmented by province, and then broken down. Those provinces have their each individual merits or KPIs in which they have to provide that service, that EMS service for their customers or for their citizens. In the US, it's a little bit different. It's segmented into a variety of different models types because it is a reimbursement or a for-profit model, but there is for-profit. So you have your hospital-based systems, you have your community-based systems, you have your hybrid solutions, and then you also have a little niche that is called your government systems as well, where a state is providing a multitude of aircraft for its citizens, and it's free of charge, or it's paid in another avenue in terms of a tax, and the insurance companies are not involved. So it's identifying, knowing, understanding which market or which type of program you're going after. And then based upon that, it's okay, what is the economic model of the customer that they would like to achieve? Are they for profit? Are they not for profit? And then we try to fit our products in with their model. So it's not as easy as one makes it.
So is there a lot of variety between, say, South America as well? I mean, geography, political situation, etc., and all that kind of thing compared with, say, North America?
South America and Central America to South America is a little bit different because their systems are not as they may not even have a system, or their systems are not as robust as what you see in the northern part of the Western Hemisphere. So that is more on a business development, trying to help set up airborne EMS into those countries, and not as set up, or the infrastructure isn't set up like it is in the United States or Canada, or even in Europe, Australia, and other parts of the world. So there is a little bit of a lag there.
And obviously, like, Leonardo is a European company. A lot of the designs, I assume, are probably produced initially for that market, although I imagine there's a view to a global sales. Is there any way that you guys have to modify the aircraft in any way for the American market, or is it roughly the same, or does EMS have roughly the same demands on that front, no matter where you are in the world?
I'll let Sam answer that question because I have some thoughts as well.
Yeah, we're probably going to be pretty aligned on this. So the simple answer to your question is no, they're not modified, the aircraft itself. So we produce, the 139 that's going to be built for a VIP customer in Brazil is going to look very similar from the helicopter standpoint as an EMS helicopter coming here to the United States. That being said, there's a lot of different kits that are kind of mission specific that can be added or subtracted. And obviously a VIP customer would want things like extra soundproofing and a very comfortable ride, whereas EMS is more interested in items such as hoisting or FLIR or something like that. The part that is modified for every single customer pretty much is the interior portion. So the medical interior that goes into that, and there's a number of companies that we work with all around the world that have different solutions. And so we work to try and find the company that, matches up with the operational needs of the customer. So some examples of that are sometimes people want really lightweight and very flexible and modular because they're going to be changing from, say, a search and rescue configuration over to a firefighting configuration, maybe then to a mass casualty. And then there's other customers, such as some of our hospital-based systems that are doing extremely large, complicated medical patients, either with an incubator or with a heart-lung bypass machine, that want to be able to put a no-lift, power-loaded solution into the back of a helicopter. So there's other companies, that work on that. We've created the cabins of all of our helicopters to be highly modular. So they provide seating that's all the way around the patient, or so that all the providers can access the patient. That's because it's essentially like a big box, it gives us a lot of flexibility. So the helicopter is not defining what people are able to get in terms of an interior. It's mostly up to the creativity of the customers and their needs and the interior providers that we work with very closely. Mike, I don't know if you have something to add, but
nope, you hit the nail on the head for me. It's the modularity of our products that stands above the rest. You have the ability to reconfigure as needed, as required, depending upon the mission, and even within just an EMS mission, you have the ability to go from on scene to interfacility transport or to specialty care, ECMO, neonate, whatever is required. We offer, our products offer that level of flexibility, and I think that is a key, very, very key. Also, our relationship with the vendors, we're agnostic when it comes to that, so we will work with whomever the customer wants. We don't define that. It's actually the customer that is performing the mission on a day-to-day basis. That is the most important part. Again, the main goal of this mission is to provide safe patient care for that individual on his or her worst day of their lives or life, and that's what we want to do. But and that's how our aircraft can help meet that mission.
I'm guessing that the people that want more flexibility, they tend to be the ones that are sort of doing multi-role operations, tends to be smaller communities that probably can't afford more than one helicopter, that sort of thing. Am I right?
It can be a variety. I would say, like, South America would be a good example of sort of the cost effectiveness. So they need that aircraft to be able to do an EMS mission, a police mission, a VIP transport. In the United States, and even like in Australia, that modularity is more related to their role being multifunctional. So they'll have, for example, Travis County down in Texas flies our 169. I think they do about 70% EMS calls, but the other 30% is a mixture of search and rescue, firefighting, and some police work. So they need to be able to kind of quickly and easily reconfigure. And I think for them, their reconfiguration is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5 minutes. So it's relatively rapid to be able to deploy, a single asset that can do a lot of different missions relatively quickly, and that's important to them. Other places, like I had said, that have a little bit more of a defined mission, such as the hospital-based system that does 80 to 90% interfacilities, they're not looking as much for that reconfiguration, except like Mike mentioned, they are often doing specialty team missions. So adding, additional personnel or the heart-lung bypass machine or an incubator, those are all, designed to be done seamlessly and easily so they can move from a primary mission or a scene call quickly over to do an incubator transfer with additional personnel on board.
And obviously, like the various different kinds of the different sizes of helicopters that you do, the smaller ones you'll have to have more of a stripped back kind of setup, I imagine, compared with the larger ones would have something a bit more complex. Is that correct?
Well, the capability exists for that. So, an example of that would be the power loaded stretcher. In some of the lighter aircraft, you're not going to be able to, both from a weight and a size standpoint, be able to get that in. That being said, there's a number of people operating the larger aircraft that have relatively stripped down interiors. We're working with a customer right now that has one of our largest helicopters that has a pretty lightweight, simple, because of the distances and their clinical needs are not the same as some of the hospital-based systems. So with that being said, we still strive to create an atmosphere, and whether or not it's in our smallest aircraft all the way up to the big one, that gives all the providers full access to the patient and maintains that flexibility. So even in some of, like, for example, we have a customer that flies a 119, which is our single engine model, one of our smallest aircraft, and they're operating 12 of them and routinely doing ECMO flights, incubator flights. So they're still able to perform all of those different missions. We do have to work with them and with the interior provider to try and keep as much weight off of it, because obviously the smaller helicopters can't lift as much, but they're still able to move 400-pound patients on heart-lung bypass machines with 3 providers in a 119. So we work pretty hard to make sure that we're able to meet their mission profile and keep it flexible enough so that it applies to a myriad of different customers.
So you mentioned something about tilt rotors, I think, when we were talking earlier. Is Leonardo in any way exploring these more sort of unusual aircraft types, VTOLs and things like that, for emergency medical services? Is that an avenue you're exploring?
Yes, it is. The 609 offers, the AW 609 offers a uniqueness that no other helicopter or fixed wing out there can provide, right? The ability to fly above weather, fly like a fixed wing, but then go point to point it's extremely useful. But again, also extremely rare because it will be once certified, it'll be the first civilian aircraft to do as such. But it's not just EMS. It's also search and rescue that has a very, very big proponent of that as well. Having the ability, whether it be utilized as, and this is just an example, but the U.S. Coast Guard or even the offshore oil platforms down in the Gulf of Mexico or out in the North Sea, where you have an emergency evacuation situation, and you have something like a 609 that reduces that exposure over water, meaning you can get from point A, the land, to whatever rig you may need to go to, or search and rescue call out in the water. But you're reducing that time over water. You're reducing that risk substantially due to its speed. And then you have the ability, once you get on station, to then transition up, and you become a helicopter at that point, and then you can utilize it as a helicopter, which makes it extremely flexible within its platform. These are some of the things that we're excited for when we talk about the 609 here in the near future. It's gonna take some time to integrate it into the world of aviation because, like I said, it is extremely new. But we do feel there is a large majority of multi-role capabilities that the 609 can do, and I think that will integrate well into what the rest of the flexibility that we offer throughout our entire product portfolio.
That sounds really exciting. Just because it seems like it can do everything. I mean, is there still going to be a place for the traditional helicopters, or is that too far in advance and too much speculation? Do you think it could easily?
I don't think traditional helicopters are going away for quite some time. We are headed that way from an innovation and technology perspective. UAVs, HAI just recently rebranded to Verticon specifically for that point. We are headed that way, and we as a company are looking into technologies in that way. But I don't think the traditional helicopter is going away anytime soon.
Okay, that's good to hear. Why don't we go in a different direction? Why don't you tell me both what exactly you enjoy most about the work that you do? Sam, how about you?
Sure. Well, first of all, I work with an incredible team of people at Leonardo Helicopters, but I also have the ability to interface with medics, nurses, doctors, pilots from all over the world. And so I really enjoy getting to see different innovations, different systems, trying to bring information, from one part of the world over to a different part of the world, so that we're not, trying to solve the same problem 50 times, but maybe just solve it once and then disseminate it to those 50 people. I really sort of enjoy that intellectual challenge of trying to be able to really understand the mission that people are trying to achieve, and then trying to put all the building blocks together to give them an aircraft that's capable of everything that they want, and have the flexibility to deal with future adaptations as medicine or the airspace or regulatory requirements also change.
And how about you, Mike?
So I have to echo Sam's sentiment. First, it starts off with the team, and then it's not just the U.S.-based team, but the Italian team as well. We're a very cohesive unit, and we have been for quite some time. And I think that it really helps facilitate the messaging and what we want to accomplish, not just in the EMS realm, but the entirety as a sales and marketing organization, and pushing our brand and putting our brand out there, because I do feel our product portfolio is probably the strongest out there. But it's not just the team internally. It's the relationship and building that partnership with the customers that I truly enjoy, because you understand, it's almost like it is a true relationship in a sense, and a marriage as well, because You start off with that courting process, if you will, where you're doing your sales and marketing pitch. We find you've come to that point where perhaps our aircraft is selected by that particular operator. Then it's trying to figure out, okay, what works well within the interior, and this is where Sam comes along. What works well within the interior and transitioning that to them, getting the aircraft, entering into service, and then seeing them be successful for the next 10, 15, 20 years is a great thing to see. I'll use Lifelink 3 as a perfect example. They became a customer of ours in the early 2012, 2013 timeframe, but to see their progression and what they do inside the aircraft, we're learning from them just as much as they are learning from us. And it's great to take these KPIs that are to them, but then transition them to other customers as well. And again, it's opening up a way of communication between one program to another to say, hey, this is what we're seeing over here. Would you like to see this over here as well? And then bonding that together. It's great to watch the relationship, especially being with the company now for almost 18 years. I've had the opportunity to see quite a few of those. And again, not just in the EMS world, but the other segments as well, where we've seen that partnership really grow into a true partnership. And we're conjoined at the hips. Our KPIs are together and we're synergistic because we both have one goal. And it's whatever that customer's goal is. We want to make sure that aircraft, its dispatch reliability or availability is in the manner as high as it possibly can so that they can perform the missions that is needed or required.
You mentioned that people will adapt their aircraft and over the years, and you'll see them evolve and things like that. That seems like it's not to say a lot of pressure, but like in order to create something that can work in that way, it must be quite hard to sort of create an interior that can work as a sort of blank canvas in that sense.
Yeah, it is. And I think sometimes it's something that's difficult for the clinical teams to sort of wrap their head around. I know my previous job when I was working as a nurse, you kind of look at your current problems and try to address those, but that anticipation of future flexibility is not always there. So I spend a lot of time working with them about introducing and creating flexibility, and all of our interior partners are, really incredible about this. They've also, from an engineering standpoint and a design standpoint, tried to work that in, because everyone knows that medicine is moving faster than helicopters in terms of new designs and stuff like that, right? If you would have asked me if we would have flown ECMO 10 years ago, I would have said you were crazy, and now there's people doing it all over the place. So there's a lot of things that can be done in terms of the way that the interiors go into our helicopters. And then, we have a brand new single engine called the AW09 that we're working on finishing certification. As part of the early process of that, our engineers came to me and said, what are things that we need to put in the helicopter to create this flexibility? And it was just about strengthening certain areas that would allow things to be mounted. I don't know what those things are. I don't know how many of the things, but that's what Mike was saying, that we work hard as an OEM to build that capability into the aircraft, also the shape of the cabin and the seat layout, certification stuff, and then partner pretty closely. And then we're working with our customers that are sort of doing the advancements in medicine. We have a customer in Norway that was working on trying to get a CAT scan in the back. So we help facilitate those conversations. That helps us sort of be as up to speed as possible. And then, like I said, we kind of constantly conversing with our interior partners as well. But yeah, it is a challenge. I think it's more of a mental challenge than it is kind of an engineering one. It's just sort of being open to this flexibility, because there's a lot of times that they say, I want the trash can right here because that's exactly where I'm going to always want the trash can. And needless to say, the trash can usually gets moved a couple of times.
We also have what we call assets that are mock-ups that are essentially a blank canvas of an interior. And we have, as an example, our AW169 that we bring down to these customers and just give it to them for a week and a half with the seats, the stretcher that they would like. and allow them to kind of say, oh, this works well, or this doesn't work well, because they have an idea of what needs to happen. But going from product X to product Y, it may not flow completely. So we have the assets there that I'll say, here, go ahead, play with it, kind of figure out what you're thinking from an interior perspective. Sam will also be there as well to help facilitate or answer any of the questions. So it's also, I would say that is another avenue that we as Leonardo like to provide for our customers here too, to help facilitate, understand what that blank canvas can actually do.
How close is the mock-up to the sort of final version usually? Is it?
So our blank mock-up, we have a floor on it. We have some seats that you can maneuver around. You put the depending on what stretcher you want. If you have your own stretcher, if you have a Furno or a Striker, you just have that ability to put it into the mock-up and see, how does it work? Do we want to go transversal? Do we want to go longitudinal? Where do we want to store our bags? How do we want to put the seats? How is installing or putting in the stretcher, if it is a power load, with what kind of seats do we need to have in there? So it does add a nice level of capability, again, to start painting that blank canvas, if you will.
And I was just going to add that, this kind of ties into what Mike said about the relationship is really important to us. And it's important to us throughout our whole organization. So if we just, gave them a catalog and said, pick out a helicopter and here's a couple layouts and went on their way, I don't think that would meet their mission needs very well. And so not only myself and the sales team, but also sales engineering, we had one of our customers over in Italy with probably 15 engineers, chief test pilots in the room, really understanding what their mission is, what their challenges are. They operate in a very austere environment with some really low temps and really long distances. So it's important to us to have that relationship so that we have the best understanding of what they need, and then we can help provide them with the aircraft that's able to do as much as possible. There's still, we haven't figured out how to get rid of physics, but we try our best to match that up, and that's really important to us. To have that relationship, so we're understanding, so we're building that into the aircraft and into the interior.
Yeah, and you mentioned like the fast pace of medical equipment as well. You mentioned ECMO, for example, how 10 years ago that wouldn't be even thought of as a thing you'd bring onto a helicopter. Are we seeing any new trends for people putting massive bulky equipment on their helicopters?
Well, I don't know how many medical people but we'll try and take as much equipment as we can every single time. But I would say that probably the biggest advances, or the most amount of talk that's happening, is related to sort of real-time data transfer. It's very common within the hospital system. So if you have a patient that moves from your emergency room up to the operating room, up to the ICU, all of those caregivers can see what's happening with the patient in real time, and that reduces medical errors by keeping a consistent flow of information. When I started as a nurse, and also when I was on helicopter, it was all done on pieces of paper or sometimes on a piece of tape that I would leave with the ER. And I think we can all agree that that's not really the most reliable way to transmit, very important medical information in a very fast-paced environment. So, a lot of the devices have Bluetooth capability. We've got the capability for Wi-Fi, both satellite and 4G on all of our aircraft. And so there's been a fair amount of work between us, the Wi-Fi people, the medical devices. There's a lot of privacy issues, with how that data is going to be transmitted. So it's being done in one or two places, but there's a lot of conversation about that. Also, being able to get specialists in real time able to do consultations, because if you think about the fact that a helicopter is picking up a huge variety of patient population, whether or not it's trauma, medical people, babies, pregnant women, the helicopter EMS crews are some of the best medical professionals I've ever worked with or met in my life, but they can't know everything. And there are some really smart doctors. And so if you're able to bring that doctor into the cabin with you and have a consultation phase, I think that there would be value. If you also look at sort of healthcare as a whole globally, it's being asked to take care of more people with less money all the time. right? So there's less resources. And so that's why helicopters are so vitally important in terms of the fabric of the medical system in whatever country, because, the traditional doctor with his bag in his house that you would go see and he would take care of everyone in the town, that no longer happens. Most of the care is happening at larger facilities, and people are needing to come with more illness. And so the key is getting, teams out to that patient as fast as possible, essentially extending the walls of that large hospital out to all these different remote communities, bringing the care level. And so in order to do that, you have to, have the equipment on board and be able to, have those resources transmitting, and figuring out, the best place for the patient to go. There's a lot of things that I think the data stuff can help, but that's probably the biggest one. And then the second one would probably be imaging. There's always a goal to get more pictures of what's going on inside the patient.
Yeah, because every time I look at figures for the amount of missions that an air ambulance has been on, they're always saying it's a record year every year, and it's actually quite incredible how much it just keeps going up.
They're not building a lot of new hospitals. That's for certain.
A lot of consolidation within the especially here in the United States. So those hospital bases are becoming gobbled up and shrunken. So therefore, you still have a large community that you have to service. So you got to get there some way, and sometimes ground isn't always the answer, unfortunately. So you're starting to see a lot more of the trend where air is not the preferred, but is a much bigger avenue to transfer these patients.
One of the other things I'd just like to mention kind of along this topic, but talking about future innovation and expectations and anticipating, is one of the things that we've done for a long time. We've kind of recently re-engaged with it and created an EMS symposium that we're going to be having our 7th one, I think, this summer. And we bring leaders from all over the world. We had a Norwegian statistician that came and talked with us, and then we have a whole bunch of leaders. So those are the panelists, and then we also have leaders from around the world that are participants. And we set it up as a very interactive approach to sort of talk about existing challenges or perceived future challenges, and then solutions or perceived future solutions. It's incredibly dynamic. It definitely humbles you a little bit because there's a lot of smart people packed into a room, but and so we view that as really one of our responsibilities to the community as a whole, is to provide. We're not usually doing the speaking, we just invite the speakers, but providing that resource to the HEMS community writ large will just improve and solidify the current existence, and also hopefully strengthen it into the future.
Yes.
I don't know if you had something else you wanted to say on that, Mike, but I thought
you hit the nail on the head on that. But the idea is to bring the international and national communities together to understand what is best for the market and for the patients moving forward. How do we do this effectively, efficiently, and in the most cost-effective manner possible? And that's what we're trying to do when we bring these this HEMS symposium together. Is exactly that.
Well, that sounds fantastic. But thank you for joining me for this podcast, this episode. I think it's been a really good talk, and I think we learned a lot.
We were glad to help. Thank you for having us on. And if you need anything more from us, or if you want to do a follow-up, we're both here.
Oh, well, always happy to do a follow-up. But yeah, have a great day. Thank you very much, and see you around.
Thanks, Oliver.
Thank you
much
very much.
Appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of Waypoint. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on your favourite platform to catch more upcoming episodes. We'll have new ones coming out every 2 weeks from now until June. But if you can't wait that long, be sure to check out the AirMed&Rescue website for more exciting content. Until then, safe flying!